Well, I'm bringing this show live because I wanted to interview Seth David a little bit more. Seth's my pal who does all kinds of stuff with bookkeeping, with all kinds of computery fun in general at nerdenterprises.com. He's got a course called Bulletproof Bookkeeping and a lot more stuff. So we're going to go into that. I'm going to drag Seth David out here and we're going to talk. And meanwhile, you can look at my cat toupee. Oops, wrong button. It's been a minute. So my man Seth David sat down with me and talked yesterday or the day before about what was going on in the land of bookkeeping, what he's doing with Bulletproof Bookkeeping, what new businesses need to know about it, and what's changed over time. And as we get talking to Seth, as always, you go all over the place because he's just a man of a lot of different technologies, and we get a lot of good insight into it. So I'm going to drag him out here. Seth, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Feels
good
like
to be here.
Days ago. I somehow convinced the cat to get off my head. We talked about bookkeeping and we talked about stuff that people don't necessarily really want to talk about. We talked about, some of the ways that it gets done and all that. And one of the first things you said was QuickBooks Online. There's really kind of no other app to use these days for that. I mean, there's some competitors, but the online versus the desktop version, is that also the big recommendation?
It is, and it becomes a bit like PC versus Mac and Android versus iOS. You get into those kind of debates.
Sure.
I think that as we go further and further into the future, the pro desktop people are losing those debates more and more frequently. Mm-hmm. I made the decision actually a number of years ago to just go all in with QuickBooks Online. I'll train people in desktop because I have the knowledge. I just literally got off a call before this one, training somebody, helping them remotely clean up their books, which is in QuickBooks Desktop. But if somebody wants to come in as a client of Nerd Enterprises where we're doing the accounting for them and they're in QuickBooks Desktop, the first thing we do is migrate them to QuickBooks Online. I just won't do it in QuickBooks Desktop.
So one of the things you were saying was that it's changed since I used it or knew anything about it, which is that you could do things like invoicing in there and all that sort of a thing if you want. You could set up recurring payments and all that. So people running an online business people like ourselves who, a lot of our business or 100% of our business is online, you could use that to set up recurring payments or to invoice people one-offs if you have to. Is that accurate?
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
Cool. And that, do they tie into, what do you tie into, like a Stripe or something like that for some of those other functions? Or
usually you'll just use QuickBooks Payments. Intuit offers their own payment processing solution. It's really easy to turn on once you just go into your QuickBooks Online settings and there's an option for payments. You go in there and you click like learn more, and they just need to verify your bank account that they're going to drop funds into and pull fees out of when they need to. And it's done. It's usually done in 2 seconds. I also learned recently, because I'm actually a reseller, but I always forget that I'm a reseller. So I always forget to tell people buy it through me. But yeah, I can get this, because if you're using QuickBooks Payments, to process payments via ACH is, I think it used to be totally free. Now I think they charge you like maybe 50 cents a transaction or something really ridiculously low like that. Mm-hmm. If you want to choose to take credit cards, you can. For that, there's, you pay the normal kind of rates, like 2.3% or whatever. So yeah. As a reseller, apparently I can get better processing fee rates on the credit card processing.
No way. What's your link for that? How do people pick that up if they want?
I'll dig it up and I'll send it to you so you can post it up after the show. Basically, you have to fill out a form with me and I have to submit the order to Intuit. And then, and by the way, if you need QuickBooks Online, I can do the same thing and get you 50% off the first year.
Wow.
It's funny. I always forget about that, but so you have to do it through me. But yeah, so let's go. Let's get everybody into QuickBooks Online.
Which wasn't really the topic of the show, but I wanted to, I wanted to start there. But see, things like that you said at the end. Oh, by the way, I can get 50% off for the whole year.
For the whole first year, and then it goes back to normal retail rates. Yeah.
Everyone's expecting like take 10% off. I sound like one of those awful infomercials. Are you kidding me, Seth? But we're not doing that today. Listen, you were talking also very passionately about Kajabi. You were talking about the fact that Kajabi is the platform that you use right now for pretty much everything. You've got your systems there. You've got your sales pages there. You're using it for the email marketing platform. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I can't wait to do a course on that. The one thing I wish they would do, and I should probably be submitting this feedback to them, is I'm watching Chip Griffin come up.
Chip's loving it.
I like him. So I'm where was I? Oh, Kajabi. So I should give this feedback to them. There's not, I'm going to be very honest, there's not a great integration between Kajabi and QuickBooks Online like I wish there was that would be able to pull in my sales well. So, but I have a workaround, of course. And part of the reason I can do the workaround that I do is because what Kajabi does do really well is data. And I can get good reporting on, out of Kajabi. I can, in a click, it will export like all of my sales. And in Kajabi, when you're selling online, you have offers and you have products. So, the products is what you would use if you're actually selling a course, right? But I can use an offer just as a way of capturing a payment from somebody, and I can set up a monthly subscription like I do with my accounting clients. We don't bill by the hour. We charge them monthly. So when a new client comes in that way, I just go into Kajabi, I create an offer, I call it monthly bookkeeping -client X, and I send them the link and they click on it and they use a credit card and they set up their monthly payment with me that way. And then of course I do sell lots of courses and I sell templates and all kinds of things using Kajabi, but I love their reporting. And I love the fact that because all of my sales, everything I sell, it's that data is in Kajabi. I can get really good intelligence, like I was mentioning to you earlier this week, in terms of segmenting my lists when I'm sending out emails. So, and a great example of this is, so I just literally today, as we're recording this, finished a series that I've been doing every Friday for the month of January called Process and Workflow Design, right? And I created this pipeline. So basically what happens is they register for free, right? But as soon as they register, they get subscribed to an email sequence. So, day 0, immediately they get an email welcoming them, reminding them that they're going to get a confirmation from Zoom with their registration information and so on. And then a day later, they get an email that says, hey, by the way, if you want this workbook I've written, I've given you detailed notes to go along with the webinar as a study guide. Click here, $37, you can get the workbook. And of course, I don't actually tell them this. I've learned to do this. Always kind of hide the added values. Let them be surprised that, I describe it as a workbook singular, but what they actually get is 4 separate workbooks, one that goes with each week, right?
Wow.
And these aren't like some dumb little 5-page ebook. These are like 20 pages of detailed notes and screenshots and things I don't get into in the live webinar because I only have an hour in the live webinar and so on. So then what I can do is then I give them platinum access if they want access to the recordings after the fact, right? So for platinum access, so another email goes out and lets them know, hey, if you want platinum access, it's $197 and you'll have lifetime access to all the recordings. And so what I can do though is, so there's one email sequence they get subscribed to when they register for free. Once they purchase their workbook, they get unsubscribed from that email sequence, and now they're subscribed to an email sequence that sort of acknowledges they've gone beyond free, they're in the workbook zone, and now I want to get them into the platinum zone for those who care to have it, right? And if they go platinum, then they get unsubscribed from the workbook sequence, and now they're in the platinum sequence. And all of this, it sounds complex, but it's so easy to set up in Kajabi. Kajabi just makes this ridiculously easy. Plus, any given time, if here's an example, and this is a funny one to say. So let's say I want to offer a coupon code to give a discount this week on Bulletproof Bookkeeping with QuickBooks Online. Sometimes my concern in doing that is if I email blast that to my whole list and there's people who just signed up and paid like full price, it's going to end up costing me money because I'm going to get all these people coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, I want the discount. So I can segment the list and say, only send this to everybody on the list who doesn't already own this offer. And that way, right, anybody who's got it already, first of all, they don't need to be bothered with discounts on something they already own, right? And secondly, it saves me the trouble of having to go give partial refunds to 100 people, right? But the point is, I can't do that if I'm using a WordPress site with a WooCommerce shopping cart and I'm using MailChimp. To do the same thing, to be able to segment with that kind of data and intelligence would require, I think, probably at least 2 different plugins. And even then, it's clunky. It breaks a lot, right? And Kajabi just does this seamlessly.
Now, again, you do over a fashion of time, you get the opportunity to be an affiliate for these people because you like the product. You partner with them with QuickBooks and Intuit. They are smart to take advantage of knowing you because the what you do and the way you do it and the way you've helped clients over the years, and now the way you're helping educate other bookkeepers and accountants,
Mm-hmm.
they should love you. But it always starts in that direction. It doesn't start like you go, hey, I think I'll go find something to sell. What's this Kajabi all about anyway?
Yeah.
You just
So
use it for yourself and then figure out that it's something that other people might take advantage of.
I'll tell you, it started a long, long time ago, Chris, in a galaxy far, far away, where I had started Nerd Enterprises and I was doing all these videos on QuickBooks. And in those days, it was just QuickBooks Desktop. And after a while, I felt like I had sort of saturated things. Like there's only so much I could cover without getting into very specific circumstances, which is how it all worked. Because then companies would come to me and hire me and say, hey, I saw your video on how to record NSF checks, but I have this weird situation. Great, let's get in one-on-one and I'll show you how to fix the weird situation. But after all, I was like, there's only so many videos I can do on QuickBooks. Like each year I can cover the new features that come out or whatever. And then I sort of looked around and I said, wait a minute, I use a lot of other tools in my business that make my life easy, right? And in those days, I remember the first thing I thought of and started doing videos on was Evernote. Because I was like, I use Evernote a lot. Every time I have a meeting with a client, I'm taking notes in Evernote. Every time I get an inquiry via email and I want to make sure I follow up on it, I'm forwarding it into Evernote because I want to keep my inbox clean. And that way in Evernote, I can like tag things and decide what's important and what I need to do today versus tomorrow versus the next day. And by the way, if everybody wants a great book to read that helps you learn a process like that, it's very much what my recent process design series was inspired by, is David Allen's Getting Things Done. If you are worried about getting organized and being ridiculously efficient, get that book, study it. Don't read it. Study the thing. Learn how to apply it.
Which you live by quite a lot. I mean, that's the thing I love to tease you about, but also admire you about. So you are a process-driven, process human being. And you've done that for quite a while. And I guess it's because before that you learned what chaos was all about. So you had two ways to try it, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's the thing. There came a point in time in my life, and I'm not, I'm not shy about talking about it. But when I got clean from drugs and alcohol and I went to rehab, that's when I realized I was afraid to leave rehab because I was afraid I was going to go back to the old life. And I had a therapist there who I still see today, almost 22 years later. And I remember what he said to me as I was getting ready to leave rehab. And this is not my first rehab, by the way. I was like, I don't want to go back to the way I used to be. I really want this to stick this time. And he said to me, he said, well, you never really have to leave. I mean, yes, physically you leave and go on and get a job and start building a life again. But he said, you can always take this with you. And what I realized he meant was the structure that I had learned, because in rehab, you have a very structured day. You get up and you have a certain amount of time where you have to clean your room and bathroom and everything. And then you have to be down in the cafeteria for breakfast by a certain time. If you're late, you miss breakfast, right? It's that simple. And then we have a group, and then we might have a break, and then we might have another group, and then we have lunch. And then we had, very, very structured. So that's where I think it came from, really, is that I had to just take that with me. I had to take that structure with me, and it has just served me really well. And what it does ultimately, Chris, for me, is it reduces and sometimes even eliminates stress, right? And that's the name of the game for me at the end of the day, is I just want to reduce and eliminate stress. I want systems in place that help me not to have to worry that I'm going to forget to do this thing or that I'm going to drop a ball, especially with clients putting so much confidence in me to make sure I get things done for them. And they're important things, So and then going back to your other question about, all these other things I do. So yeah, I said Evernote is something that's really helped me in my business. Let me do videos on that. And fast forward today, one of my proudest moments, actually, if I can share this, is when you reached out to me maybe like a year or so ago, and you were like, Seth, I'm trying to figure out how to do this thing in Airtable. And I've got, these calls I'm doing with people, and I've got their contact information. And I looked at it with you, and in like 5 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, you just set up a table with your contact information, and then you link that and tag them in every time you want to log a call that you've done. And you're like, oh my God, in 5 minutes, it just opened up the floodgates. So you knew exactly what you needed to do. And that was like a very proud moment for me. I was like, I helped Chris, right? And, but it was your reaction spoke volumes, that this is what I get to do for people is, unblock them, right? Get them unstuck.
Right. So I have so many different directions to take this, but one of the thoughts I want to talk about was that the fact that you're always out there looking for the new things. Not that everyone should be. Like, you're always kicking the tires on a lot of new things. Once somebody gets a system, they should stick with the system until there's some reason they need to look at something else. How do you do that these days? Because I know you've tempered this a little bit. How do you go from touching every new shiny thing to like only looking every now and again?
So I have a rule about that. And then I have a caveat that applies really only to me and maybe some others like me. Okay. So my rule is for me to even try something new, that I'm planning on using in my business, it either has to solve a problem I haven't already solved, or it has to solve one better. Those are the rules. If I look at an app and I say, wow, this app is really cool, but I've got that problem solved, then I'm probably done right there. Unless there's something about this new app that I've looked at that I feel like will help make my process more efficient, more effective, more accurate in the execution of my workflows and processes. That's kind of the main criteria. So that's the camp I live in terms of how I decide what I am or am not going to use. And then in the other camp, I have my sandbox, which is where I like to play, right? So I'll give you a specific example. I have a product that I use that I covered very much in the process and workflow design series that I just completed. And then starting next week, February of 2021, I'm doing a deep dive on this product. It's called ClickUp. I think I mentioned it to you the other day. And so for February, I'm doing a course in ClickUp where I'm going to dive deep into the product and show people all the little nooks and crannies and features and things. So I'm all in with ClickUp. That's my project management tool. That's where I keep track of what I need to do, whom I need to do it for, when it needs to get done, or who else is doing it for me because I employed 2 bookkeepers. That's the tool. But I also got introduced, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago to a product called ZenKit To Do. Now, ZenKit To Do is a product that was made because some people may remember that many years ago, there was a product that came out called Wunderlist. And Wunderlist was bought by Microsoft. And then Microsoft did what Microsoft does about 2 years ago, and they ate it. They ate Wunderlist, and they kind of built the code into one of their other products, which was terrible. It was Microsoft To Do now is where it's kind of rolled into, but it doesn't look anything like Wunderlist. And Wunderlist had this like cult following that loved the design and layout. So ZenKit To Do is designed exactly like Wunderlist. I don't know if it's the same German developers. There may be some crossover there, but it definitely has the exact same feel that Wunderlist had. And so they kind of marketed that very smartly, I might add, after Microsoft announced that they were going to be cannibalizing Wunderlist. They said, hey, if you loved Wunderlist, come over here, right? Now, I love this app. If I wasn't already all in with ClickUp, and if my needs weren't very much satisfied with ClickUp, I would be doing more with ZenKit To Do. However, because I am also a person, because of exactly what you described about me, Chris, I'm also a person who a lot of people come to for suggestions about what they should use. And I get that ClickUp for some people may be too much. It may be like, whoa, more than I need. Price-wise, it won't be. It's very reasonable on price, but it's got so many things that it can do and so many ways it can do them. Some people are like, I need something very simple. And so when they come to me with that approach, I say, great, go look at ZenKit To Do. And that's very simple, very easy, very straightforward. If you ever heard of Wunderlist, then you'll be very comfortable with this because it's almost the exact same user interface. I would argue that it's actually a little smoother than the Wunderlist interface was. So
it's as I was looking through ClickUp while you were talking about it, it's this is the future of work. To-do list, project management, docs and wiki, spreadsheets, email and chat, events, reminders, goal tracking. Yeah, it's a big old deal. This reminds me a little bit of a company that I did some work with for a little while called Workfront, where they were really pushing on that concept of collaborative work management tools. Now, this has become a big thing pre-pandemic, and now it's coming out to be something very important post-pandemic. One other thing I want to talk to you about with regards to that, Seth, is you've been working remotely. You're like a remote work hipster. You've been doing this since way before it's cool. You were like an isolating guy for years. What's the small, quick stack that people need to think about for being a remote work hipster like you? Like, should they just jump into ClickUp and Kajabi and call it a day, or what's the smallest possible stack they could use to run a very simple business and not have to devote their time and all of their life to those processes?
I think you can certainly start with ClickUp and Kajabi. That'll cover the project management, and that'll cover Kajabi will cover your website and your marketing engine, right? And ClickUp, by the way, can easily be customized into a mini CRM if you want, and to a very good end. It's not like a workaround. You can do some really cool stuff with it there. But then I think you still need some kind of an office suite of documents. Like I'm a sort of diehard Google G Suite. I've had it since it was called Google for Work or something like that. Now it's called Google workspaces or something. Every week they change the name, but that's what I use. So you have to choose, either you're going to be a Google person or you're going to be a Microsoft Office person, right? Whichever one of those camps you want to live in, you have to choose one. And if you're choosing Microsoft Office, then you're probably going to use Microsoft Teams. For everyone else, you're going to use Slack, or you use something else that came out kind of recently instead of Slack. What was it called?
Oh, well, that's just for community building tools. So I wouldn't use it for just collaborative communication,
Gotcha.
but
Okay.
Mighty Networks, which is basically the Gina Bianchini who made Ning. After she sold Ning and moved on to something else, she launched Mighty Networks, which is a way better, way more mobile friendly, prettier Ning.
Yeah.
Basically, those are the people that wanted white labeled social networks, and that's what Mighty is like a white labeled social network. So I wouldn't throw that in the stack. I think Slack is the great tool. I much prefer Slack as a tool, even for the process that I wanted to use it for. But if people don't use it, then they don't know. They don't know it's the right way.
And just to get a little granular for a minute, to give you people an example of like how this all comes together for me in a really cool way is, and this is how I also come up with, my systems and processes. So in Slack, you can mark a message saved. And the idea is it becomes sort of a to-do list unto itself. These are the things I need to get back to and respond to people on. Because like one of David Allen's rules is if you can do it in 2 minutes or less, just get it done. You don't want to have to revisit it twice, because that in itself becomes a poor use of time. But otherwise, you mark it for later. So what I was finding is that I was marking messages saved and I was forgetting to go check the saved queue. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, that was a month ago and I forgot to respond to the person, right? So I needed a better process. That's when I started identifying when I drop a ball, it's like, okay, I need a better process. And so then what I did was I said, well, wait a minute. All right, ClickUp is the place that I do very reliably go every day to check up on what needs to get done. And so I said, okay, so how do I get these saved messages from Slack into ClickUp? Enter Zapier, which is another one of my favorite tools that I think every business probably will need at some point, especially if you're using cloud to cloud to cloud, because it's how you connect all these things together that don't connect directly. And so I said, perfect. I created a Zap, and you can duplicate Zaps very easily, but you do have to create a separate one of these for each Slack workspace that you need to do it for. But I created a Zap that says, when I mark a message saved, add it as a task in ClickUp, take the name of the person whose message I've saved, and stick that in the name of the task, dash the Slack workspace it came from, and the Slack channel that it came from. So I know exactly where the message came from once it lands in ClickUp. Then take the message itself from Slack that I marked saved and put that text in the description of the task. And also stick the permalink from that Slack message in the description of the task. So I end up with a task in ClickUp that I know I'm going to go back to within a day. And if there's research I need to do before I can respond, it's all there in ClickUp. I have all the context I need to provide there. And then when I'm ready to respond, I click that permalink that it included in the task in ClickUp, and it takes me directly back to that message where I can now reply, and I can uncheck the saved thing because now I know I've addressed the thing. And that solved my problem perfectly. And what it comes down to is, again, going back to, and I swear I'm not being paid by David Allen for this, but going back to his Getting Things Done book, that's what he talks about, is you need to capture things in a system that you know reliably you will go back to and review. And he talks about capture, clarify, organize, and process. Right? So you need to capture the stuff in a place that's reliable, then clarify, what does it mean to me? What do I need to do to get this done? What's the next thing I need to do to move this forward? That's the clarification. And then organize it. When do I need to get it done? Does it need to be today, tomorrow, this week, next week, soon, or someday? Right? I'm assigning priority. And then process. When the time comes, get the thing done at the end of the day. Right? And so to me, that's the stack, is everything you said: Kajabi, ClickUp, and whatever Office suite, whether it's going to be Microsoft or Google that you want to use. I think that mix right there is enough for any business to get started. And I want to throw one more thing out there, because I've seen I've gotten this feedback. A lot of people are going to look at Kajabi's pricing and say, oh my God, it's so expensive. But when you understand how much time it saves you and how many processes it centralizes for you, especially getting all your sales data in one place that's easy to report on and analyze, it's worth every penny and probably 3 times as much.
And really, I mean, when you look at the pricing, you're somewhere between $119 and $159 is going to cover most people a month. But that's, if you're making a business that can't yield more than $159 in revenue a month, you're probably not ready for any of these softwares. You're ready for the the training wheel side of it, which is not a put down. It's just, that's where you are in your business right now.
Yeah. You can build your business in Google Sheets then. You can create tasks in Google Sheets and do everything. Yep.
You sure can. Seth, David, you have blown my brains right out of my ear. They're gurgling down the back of my shirt. No one can see it, thank goodness. Chief Nerd at Nerd Enterprises. Go to nerdenterprises.com. If you want specifically the bulletproof bookkeeping course, go to new.nerdenterprises.com/bulletproof, and you will have a good time. Seth, David, thank you. This is intense.
Thank you, Chris.
Wow. I feel like I need a smoke or something. But first,